It is now 6:04 p.m. June 29th, 2017. It's time to call this workshop special called meeting of the Board of Trustees of San Felipe Del Rio Consolidated Independent School District to order. Ms. Haynes, would you call roll, please?
Yes, sir. Mr. Trevino?
Here.
Mrs. Gonzalez? Here. Mr. Mesa?
Here.
Mrs. Martinez Lozano? Here. Mr. Smith?
Present.
Mr. Elliston?
Present. Ms. Haynes, we have a quorum.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
President.
Let the record show that a quorum of the board members are present. This meeting has been duly called and notices of the meeting has been posted in accordance with the Texas Open Meetings Act, Texas Government Code Chapter 551. At this time, if you please stand for opening ceremonies first, a moment of silence followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. All right. We will open the workshop. And on there, the 2017-18 budget workshop. Ms. Donna Connie Valdez presenting. It's all yours, ma'am.
Thank you. Good evening, everybody. Thank you for joining us for the 17-18 budget workshop. We will start off with a recap of last year's and the prior years, just a financial recap of the last 2 years. I'll take you through the budget projections, and we have also included in the binder, which is the second tab. Included in the binder, the second tab, since this is a second workshop, is also included any of the legal requirements and the basis of budget. I'll let y'all open. It's the second tab. So the executive budget consists of the general fund, the debt service fund, and the food service fund. We have primarily, it is also made from the general fund. You can see from 15-16 to 16-17, there was a minimal increase in revenue, where we had an increase in local tax collections, but a decrease in state funding. Can you see the mouse? Sorry. Well, a decrease in state funding. However, even though we had the reduction in state funding, we were able to afford a step increase. And we were able to increase the health insurance contribution in last year's fiscal, or in this current fiscal year's budget. For our budget projections, the very first thing that we start off with is property tax. That's one of the most important components in calculating the revenue for general fund and for debt service. In our preliminary property values provided by the appraisal district, they are due to us in April, which we did receive, but we also received an updated copy in May. So taking those values, we can see that the preliminary values are a 1.03% increase to prior year. Now certified values will be provided in July, which is what we will include for calculating our final revenue. The market value of our property taxes is over 2.8 billion. Again, compared to last year's certified values, it's a 0.73% increase in the market value. I've included the top 10 taxpayers. And for our freeze adjustable taxable value, it's 1.6 billion, and that's a 1.03% increase to last year. So this is the value that we apply our tax rates from general fund and from debt service. So as you can see here, I have a recap of our preliminary taxable values that we have right now. Applying the tax rates would generate about $17,271,000 for general fund, which is a minimal increase of almost $4,850, and this is compared to last year. And then for debt service fund, $2,048,282, which is an increase of $39,200. to 28. Now, we do know that the windmill project, that's a conversation that we've had, I think the past 2-3 years when they first approached us. I spoke to Ms. Sheedy this week, and I know there's a company that appraises the windmills, and I think she was getting a report from them this week. But the preliminary estimate, or the preliminary timing that the windmills will be included in our tax rolls would be in next year's tax rolls. The estimate is about $200 million of value that would increase in our tax rolls, which for general fund, if we were to apply the $1 tax rate, that's about $2 million. Now, once I get more information, I will provide you with the full calculation where it would include how it would affect state funding, and in 1819, which is when we would see the increase in, I'm sorry, in 1920, when we would see the increase, no, in 1819, when we would see the increase in local tax. Then in 1920, the state would use those property values to calculate state funding. And at that point, we do expect, of course, a reduction, but I will provide you with that information. We do expect a reduction in state funding, but at that point as well, there may be a required reduction in the M&O tax rate. So from $1.04, it would be required to be reduced based on the values and how all the formulas work together. But I will have more information, and of course I will provide that to y'all once I get more information and once I have a final summary of finance that they put together at TEA. And then the windmills are estimated to depreciate about 20% every year. So again, it would be estimated a nice one-time 1-year increase, but the future year is what we would have to think about when we're planning for 1819. So again, once I have more information, I will send that to you. Or we will discuss it, I'm sorry. Yes, ma'am.
I just have a question. I don't understand how that's calculated, but the market value versus the taxable value, why is Gentherm and the last one significantly lower compared to others that their market value is similar? They have some kind of exemptions, or?
Yes.
Okay.
They do have exemptions, and Ms. Sheedy can provide more, but when you look at the certified values, it starts off with market values and it breaks down all of the exemptions to get down to the taxable value. So we are at about 56%. Our taxable value is 56% of our market value, and this is what it's been trending around that. So we do have exemptions. I know they have inventory exemptions, and I'm not sure what else for the manufacturing companies.
They have a Freeport exemption is what the manufacturers get. Under Bodell Thunderbird, the difference is the market value, and the value she's taxed on is where she has ag value. And she's taxed on the agricultural value rather than the market.
See, when they get the Freeport exemption, do they ever negotiate where the taxing entities get something based on the Freeport exemption? Because I know in other districts, they've done Freeport exemptions, but the districts receive an initial amount of money.
It would have depended how you set it up when they originally adopted the Freeport exemption. That was before my time, and basically what happens, any of the inventory that sits in their warehouses for less than 165 days gets completely exempted.
Can you look and see if that can ever be adjusted or renegotiated? Because that's just a whole lot of money. When they got that Freeport exemption, the taxing entities should have received something. And if it wasn't negotiated that way, then we lost out. And I know that was before your time, before my time, but we need to see when we can renegotiate that if possible.
Okay, I'll look into that for you.
Thank you.
Another very important component of calculating revenue is attendance. So we have a 10-year chart here where over 10 years, our average daily attendance has increased by over 350. We're projecting 17-18 to be at 9,740. Currently, our Beams data is showing 16-17 at 9,700. So the increase between 16-17 and 17-18, I've added for Laughlin. But again, as of right now, those are the numbers that we have. There's still opportunities between now and August for any increased enrollment that we've seen at secondary because of early college, high school, because of CTE. The optional flexible school day program generated an equivalent of about 40 students of ADA for the 16-17 fiscal year, which again, that program generates their attendance based on the minutes they attend instead of counting them absent if they didn't come to that, that time that we took attendance throughout that day. So it's based on when they come to school, the minutes that they are here at school. So for that program, we generated about 40 students ADA for the year. Other opportunities that, of course, we want to keep on our radar is that there is always an increase in first grade between first grade and kinder. It's been trending before at 100, and this last year it was at 75. It was a difference of 75 students. And then I did want to show the enrollment that is currently students that belong to our district that are enrolled in the charter schools and in Comstock and in Bradford. Now, for the charter schools, I'm sure most of you have seen where when we started the domicile residency, a lot of those vehicles started going to the charter schools. So of course, a lot of that is included in there. But this is just a snapshot as of October snapshot of the students enrolled at the other districts that are within our school district, that belong to our school district.
I'm glad you included that because it makes a big difference. I basically didn't know what the enrollment was in the other private schools and charter schools. So that is an eye-opener.
And we have recently purchased a system called Forecast 5. It's a software that has lots of information. It's just the time to go in there. So when they showed us that, I'm like, awesome. I mean, so I've got a few charts from there that, I mean, the information in there is awesome. It's great. It's just the time it takes to go through everything and apply it. So I do plan on using it more, but that was the one, probably the best one that I grabbed from there because I wouldn't have anywhere else to grab this data. So it is awesome. And the other thing is, I do hope that promoting our community eligibility provision for pre-K through 9 would also help attract some of the students back to our district.
Yeah,
Yes, sir.
also another point. I think attendance hasn't improved, but I think enrollment has increased, and so we show an increase in average ADA.
Oh, so it's just the opposite.
Yes.
Attendance has increased significantly in spite of our enrollment increasing.
Yes.
We kicked a lot of kids out, and I hate using the word kicked out, but a lot of kids that were not in domicile were withdrawn from the school. So our enrollment, because of our border crossers not being allowed to go to school, has decreased significantly. But in spite of that decrease, our attendance has increased. So it's just the opposite.
So would that be like blended academy that made the big difference? Because I know the secondary has gone down, like from high school.
No, everybody showed increase in attendance, even secondary over this past year. Blended had a positive effect, and they made significant increase. But everybody showed increases throughout the whole year. I think the more significant increases were probably blended and Cardwell, but there wasn't a single campus that didn't show increase. There was middle school, I think, was the only one that showed everybody else increase. And as a district, we showed increase.
It might have been 1 or 2%, but it's still increase.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And you can see that here, sir. Because these, between 15-16 and 16-17, we did not have a significant change in enrollment, but the efforts that were applied for attendance is where you can see that if we hadn't made any efforts, most likely, our trend would have declined on ADA, just because it would have just been the same process that we had before. And so we maintained it and exceeded it, our average daily attendance without a significant change in enrollment. Yes, no, that's why when I saw the numbers come in from teams, I was very excited. And that's why, again, I was mentioning that for the revenue, I did increase it based on the new enrollment also that we have from Longman. And again, that's as of data that we have as of now, we still have through August that this number could hopefully increase. Oh, and one other fact that I should have mentioned is for 17-18, the estimated revenue per ADA is $6,098, which is $34.45 per day. So a full year of average daily attendance for a student is $6,098. from the state for our district. Our special populations are also very important because we receive weighted funding based on this, so this is always monitored, the director review it as well. Again, this is data that's monitored very closely, and we use it to forecast, for 17-18. As I mentioned before, you can see where, in special ed, we've been, moving from a resource room to mainstreaming, so you can see where the, mainstream numbers have increased. And though this is our resource room has decreased, so again, it's really important to understand your trends because they do also impact the funding as well, and you don't want to overstate any of your special populations. And from these special populations is where we also have to be in compliance with the state funded revenue that's provided to these populations. On our staffing ratios, our district, as of the October clean snapshot, our district has a 16.5 student to teacher ratio. For total staff, we're at 7.38. And when I compared it to the districts that TASB compared us to, that we're comparable to, we were very close to San Angelo, South San, and United. We're at 7.38 and San Angelo was at 7.29. The other districts, it's a little difficult to use as a comparison because I don't know if they outsource. For instance, food service staff is outsourced in, transportation is outsourced in Uvalde. And some districts outsource their food service. So again, this number, the districts that I named at this point don't have those services outsourced, and we are very comparable to them. So our total district staffing ratio is at 7.38, but for our teacher it's 16.5. So we do compare to the other districts. But again, another factor when we're looking at that to remember is if they outsource any of their staff.
So I guess I'm not following that.
Yes, sir.
16.5 to 1 ratio, is that what you're saying?
16.5 student to teachers. So for every teacher, we have 16.5 students.
Not that they're all in the classroom.
Right. Right, everybody classified as a teacher.
Everybody classified?
Yes.
Got it, okay.
Yes. Yes. And here are the populations that we have of teachers. So of course you have regular education at 71%. CTE, they're also in the classroom, but then you have bilingual, comp ed, GT, special ed. So all of those are classified as teachers, and they serve different populations, and you take all of the your total number of teachers and divide by the total number of students to come up with this ratio. At the May budget workshop, we had the TASB salary study. So we went through the TASB salary study. This is an updated version. This version includes the total cost estimate with providing a $1,000 increase to the starting pay, which would put our teacher starting pay at $41,550. As you can see here, that would be a 1.8% adjustment. But the rest of the salary schedule stayed at the recommended 1.5%. So in total, as a district, adopting the TASB salary study would be $1,339,037, which would be a change to the teacher's starting pay, which would also adjust their salary schedule. For paraprofessionals, you could see that they are adjusting also the beginning pay for some of the job classification groups. So you can see where there's an adjustment right here. For auxiliary, same thing, they're adjusting the minimum pay range based on the market. You can see that there is a very minimal change. So adjustment to the minimum pay range for auxiliary is $835 change. But overall, employees and would average, outside of the teachers, would average a 1.5% pay increase, and then there would be adjustments based on market value to some of the positions. Now for general fund, this would be 1.1 million, and in order for our Skyward system to calculate all of the values of the salaries at a functional level, We have a team that will start in July implementing the TASB salary study into Skyward. It's a time-consuming process, and the reason I mention that is because I usually have a recap with all of the functional codes. I don't have that yet until we get all of this calculated. But again, general fund would be 1.1 million of this. Are there any questions? I know we already went through the TASB salary study, but I just wanted to recap that there was a recommended change for the teacher starting pay and the teacher general pay increase. I need to forget about that word. Okay. Next, we'll start with general fund. So again, that's our main operating fund. This is the, I'm sorry? Yes, sir?
The delta between the 1451 and the 1370, what happens to those, and who are those individuals?
I'm sorry, which is the 1451?
Well,
The subtotal.
you've got a total head count, and you've got the ones that.
Oh,
go
right here?
increase, yeah. What's the delta? Who's the population between the two?
I'm not sure if I understood your question.
My question is, that it looks like there's 100 plus amount of people that aren't going to get an increase. Who are they?
Oh, yes, we received that list, so we do have it and we can provide it, where, again, they exceed the market.
Got it, okay. Fine,
Yes.
I'm square with it now, I'm sorry.
Yes, we do have it. Veronica did work on it. We verified everything with testing, but there are some that exceed the market.
No worries, I'm not.
No, well, thank you for the question, though.
Dice que nació de eso, dice listed it.
Yes, we can, we already have it ready. We do have it ready. We have a list using our current salary schedules, who would exceed, and then we have the list from TASB of who would
All the
exceed.
employees.
That list includes all of the employees, but we have the list of who exceeds the market, yes.
But all the employees, not just administrative too.
No, it's all employees that are included up here, all employees, yes, yes. Let me make a note of that. And I know Veronica will review. Yes, sir?
I think that we can share the list. I would just be reluctant, Mr. President, to release that list before the budget is approved. However, what y'all direct us to, we'll comply with it. But I think that if you'd like to come in and see it,
I want to see it.
but as far as
So I'm not gonna
emailing
approve it
it,
until I see it.
in terms of emailing it or
No,
providing
I
hard
wanna see it.
copies?
I can go, I can pick it, I can pick it. I'll come over here and look at it.
Okay.
Definitely, and we do have it ready.
Okay, cool. No problem.
So again, general fund is our main operating fund, and this is where our dollar for tax rate is reflected. For general fund, I have in here prior year audited figures. I have this year's amended as of what I calculated this week, and then what we're proposing for next week. Now, one thing that I also did was at the bottom, I put without the insurance recovery. As you can see, right here, we received 4.5 million, and then this year 1.3 million. So when you look at total revenue with the insurance recovery in 16-17 compared to 17-18, yes, it's a decrease. But again, the insurance recovery is a one-time, it's not recurring, and that's not something that we can control. So I did include this at the bottom, just to let you know why there's two totals. I'm gonna take you through each of the categories, but there's two totals only because I thought the insurance recovery was a little bit misleading to make it just, you know, where you can see 4.5 million in 15-16, then you see this huge drop. It's really, if I take it out, you do see slight increases, okay? Now, for local revenue, of course, our property tax is listed at the top. Our local tax collections are still at 21% of our total budget, and again, that's based on the $4. We also have other miscellaneous local revenues. For instance, any tuition that we have for summer school, interest that's earned Interest, of course, as you can see, we have made efforts with the investment advisor and interest rates are rising. So we do have a forecasted increase in interest. And I am meeting with them tomorrow, putting together the 17-18 plan, a detailed 17-18 plan. So we do have an increase in interest. And of course, we have our athletic revenue included in there as well. So for total revenue, we are projecting $18,527,400. In state funded revenue, for state funding, we have these three areas here where we have the per capita, FSP, and NIFA. This past legislative session, they included remodeled, what is the word? It was another word, but it was remodeled facilities, but they had to be completely demolished and remodeled facilities for the new instructional facilities allotment. So we are very close to finalizing that application, and that would generate $360,848 for the early college high school. And it doesn't just have to be used for the early college high school, it's state funding provided to assist with those first-time costs. So again, we do have that included in there as well. So as you can see for state funding, I'm calculating, and then it also includes TRS. Another item that is not being included anymore, which is about $33,000, is the pre-K funding. They were allowing a small allotment from TEA in the last 3 years, but in this legislative session, they did not include it. So our total state funding is going from $62,640,000 to $63,618. So we do have an increase in state funding, but again, that's also that's also due to the increase that I have on average daily attendance of about 40 students per long term. Now, on federal revenues, no change. We continue to receive our indirect costs, our charge revenue, impact aid, and E-rate. There's no significant changes there. But in total, without insurance, this is an increase of $988,233. Again, at our next workshop, it would be changes to the certified value, and if there's any changes to, I do not think that the legislature will have any changes to state funding, but if we have increase in enrollment, we would see a change to state funding. Are there any questions on the revenue?
Yes. Are there any other additional monies such as SHARs, for example, the recovery that we signed up for? Any additional, remember that we had contacted someone to assist us in case there were some other monies that had not been collected through,
Like Miss Cody?
yes.
Is that was for health insurance?
No, I thought it was part of
For SHARs?
Remember, they were helping to increase the reimbursement because of inappropriate coding. or
That
whatever.
was about
2 years.
almost 3 years ago, and that's already reflected here. SHARs was at $750, and we're up to $1 million.
Okay.
But
So
yes,
they did recover some.
They included the transportation, so students that qualify for Medicaid and are receiving district transportation, that was something that we could include and we weren't, and they helped us with that. So yes, the other thing that they helped us with was to increase or make more efficient our claims process, so the cash flow gets to us, the cash gets to us faster instead of being, I think it was 1.5 years in delay. So they did change that as well. But the transportation, it was included and it's been there since 14-15, so it's brought us up to an average of about $1 million. Okay, so now we're gonna talk about general fund salaries. Now, we included in here the prior year scenario recommendations. So you can see in 14-15, this is what was recommended. This was the value of the step increase. That was based on our salary schedules that we had. In 15-16, same thing. Step increase that was recommended based on those salary schedules. In 16-17, it was based on those salary schedules. And then in 16-17 is when, again, we also increased the contribution for health insurance, but we also started analyzing the favorability that we have in salaries in order, again, to make sure that we forecast correctly. So we also started including like the vacancy flow, which is that vacancy file that you see, and looking at excess positions. Now, when we approved the budget for 16-17, it was at 64,892,000. So when you take the budget at 16-17, all of the transitions or any changes, new hires, anybody who's retired that's happened this year, we come up with a base in 17-18 of 64,919,000, which is just, I think, about a $26,000 difference. So last year's last year's budget that was approved to our base, where we're starting off with for 17-18, is just a $26,000 difference. Now, in here, I have two different pieces of information. So in the blue, we'll start off with that. We have, again, as I mentioned, the 17-18 base, which is at 64,919,000. We do have an increase, or we do have a lot of individuals that qualify for health insurance coverage under PPACA, and this is what we're estimating that it would cost us, our district. These individuals average more than 30 hours a week. Most of those are CNAs and some substitutes. So they're employees who work for the district at an average of 30 hours or more. And this is based on a formula that's set by PPACA. Then once those individuals reach those 30 hours average, the following year they qualify for health insurance the same as their employees. And so this is what we're estimating the number of people that qualified in this fiscal year in 16-17 to include in the budget for 17-18. We also have, in this base plan, we of course have vacancy positions or vacant positions. Now those positions are at a step 5, just like as an average. If we were to bring all of those positions down to 0, we would reduce the budget by $251,000. We also, of course, have the vacancy float, and so we're setting that one right now at $300,000. In the 16-17 budget, we had added positions for blended under the committed budget, so now we're bringing them into our regular budget or our recurring budget. These are new positions to Early College High School. They're not all of the positions, they have positions that are coming over from Del Rio High School, but they also have requests for some new positions. And then, of course, we have the Laughlin positions in here, and adopting the TASB salary study for general fund would be $1,165,217 for a total of $66,747,473, which is a $1.8 million increase. But again, the TASB salary study has the vast majority of that increase is for the teacher category. Now, if we were to stay with our salary schedules, that's the area that I have up here. This is the average step increase, and those salary schedules, and that value of that step increase would be about $800,000. So again, we're at a good opportunity to implement the TASB salary study because the value of our step is $800,000, but the value of the TASB salary study is 1.1. So again, we're at a very good opportunity to implement the TASB salary study fully the way they recommended it with the change to the teachers, the salary schedule for the teachers, the changes that they recommended for the professionals and administrators. So again, the TASB salary study is included in your binder in the first half. So if you want to refresh, but all of that was in there. The only thing that changed was the teacher starting pay from I can't remember what we had before, but it went up by 1,000 instead of 875.
And there's a couple of reasons for that. We obviously we can stick to the initial TASB salary study, and we're not going to adopt anything until the legislative session is over. But, so we're planning, see how much it will cost. But in my conversations with the superintendents in the area, they're already implementing $1,000, and they've committed to it. So whether the state goes up or not, our goal is to stay within that market. So when they go up, that market's gonna go up, and they've done that 2 years in a row. So we're planning for it. The other important item to know is that even though we had committed positions last year that we paid from committed funds, we anticipated that this year we would bring them into the general fund. But over the last 2 weeks and probably for the next 2 weeks, we'll be working with the principals on the master schedule to make sure that there aren't excessive positions and that we can reduce them if they are in excess. We don't want to create oversized classrooms. We just want to make sure that the positions are being appropriately used, that there isn't too many people floating into ISS because they don't have anywhere to put them, that sort of stuff. And I think Dr. Garza has already identified at least a handful of positions that we can further review. So that was all part of the plan. That we know that we can create more efficiencies every year. So we expect that at least some of that salary scenario will come down.
And this total right here is 80% of our revenue budget, which is what we've been trending before, which is 80%. Any other questions on salary?
I have
Yes,
one.
sir?
And I think those reassignments are made, there's still some adjustments in salary that are ongoing almost all year. That's where employees, let's say that their pay is changed drastically, or
As reassignments are made,
administrators.
as the administrator, the reassignments, we probably made about 5 reassignments here in the last week where employees had positions that paid less. But that's really, that was about an average of 10,000 per employee that they took in a decrease. And I don't know if those are calculated already in there, Dr. McNamara, they're not. So, yeah, but it's, the 5 employees is about $50,000 that was decreased. That's certainly part of the savings also. Although that wasn't the reason we did it.
Yeah,
It
no,
was just right.
I understand, it's a handful.
Yeah.
And all of those changes, everything that's transitioning does come into our Skyward system, so we will, again, what we present at the next workshop would have any changes from this last time that we did this. But we do cut off like about a week or so that we can review all our data. So any changes within the last week and a half are not in here, but they are part of it as we keep moving forward. So we do not freeze the file and then go, no, we continue to update it and provide you the latest file, the latest numbers, I'm sorry. Okay. Now the following slides, these are the 17-18 budget by category. So we've broken it up into several categories where we have the campus budget, state programs, student programs, operations, and departments. We did that last year. I thought it flowed easier, so we have that this year. I also, and this is the same format for the following 5 slides. So you have the functional category. This is all non-salary budget, which means it has nothing to do with the employee contracts. This is all non-salary, which is your supplies, contracted services, any miscellaneous expenses, and any in-house, which is substitute tutors, extra duty. So this is everything that was submitted. Now, some did submit additional requests, but at this time we are maintaining budgets to the 16-17 level in order to be able to try to get a balanced budget, which we are. But I do have included in here the revised year-to-date revised budget, so you can see where any of the changes are. And down here at the bottom, it's the same titles on top. However, it's by object code, so you can see, even though you can see it at a functional level, you can see it at an object code level. So for instance, the first one is elementary. They have spending across several functional codes, and most of their spending is in supplies. But some of their supplies are for teachers, which is function 11, for library, which is function 12, for the administrator, which is function 21, and 31 is the counselor. So again, you have it by functional area, and then you have it down here by the object code. Before I move forward, are there any questions with the format?
What are the losses? So the 12,805 under elementary.
Oh, okay, I'll go into those,
Yeah.
but on the format,
No.
okay. Oh, yes, sir?
I have another question, but, so do you have it broken down by enrollment, by campus?
We have that, but not on this presentation, but we can provide that at the next one, yes.
How's it compared to last year's?
Yes, I'll do that. I'll do an enrollment comparison.
I'm talking about
Supplies?
money, campus budget, per enrollment. Teachers are saying they don't have enough money for supplies.
Well, they're allowed
That's why
to,
I'm interested in, what are we cutting?
Yeah.
Well, and it's not necessarily a cut here. Again, it's just
a difference
it's
from
just a
last year.
difference of what they submitted to last year. So for instance, if last year in 16-17, they had projected a higher enrollment, and now their enrollment numbers changed, so I'll include that. But for every campus, we also have an allocation of funding per enrollment. So they all, I shouldn't say they all, but all elementary receives the same allocation per student. And then every campus budgets it based on their needs.
can they make any transfers, any changes to that?
They can throughout the year, it's open for them to make
For them to
transfers
make
as they
decided
need.
to what, full point.
Yes, as they need it. And I'm not sure if any of that was addressed during the teacher forums, supplies. I'm trying to remember, Sandra, there was, I don't think that came up. Yeah, I don't think that came up, so,
You can look in the surveys. So,
In the surveys?
enrollment surveys.
Yes.
okay. But I'll include the enrollment comparison for each campus as well. And then and I'll have those charts separately, that way you can have the printouts. So again, for most of these, as I mentioned, we have the year-to-date revised budget, and then what was submitted. So for elementary, again, based on how they projected their enrollment last year to this year, there is just a slight change. And if the numbers change, we'll update this. So again, this is based on what they were projecting back in April, but if the numbers change, we'll update it. In secondary, we do have in here early college, high school. We do have in here blended, that change, and the changes from the optional flexible school day program. For in-house, this is the budget that we set up for substitutes for the campus. So again, for the campus, it is trending a little bit lower, and so we've set the budget up at that. So we set the budget at 857, and the actual is trending lower, so that's why I brought it down a little bit. So again, all of this is based on data as of May. When June comes in, I'm gonna go back in and revisit everything. Field trips. This year, this summer, we met with the wildlife program, or Parks and Wildlife, and they mentioned that some of the programs they did not receive funding for, so there would be a fee associated for it, like Birds of Prey was one of them. So we have that included in here. And then on the consumables, again, that's what was submitted. And then this is new, which is the CEP portion of the district's commitment for the community eligibility provision for food service. So we have it included here. And again, we have it broken down by object code as well, where you can see even though substitutes is a big budget, it's $857,000, but across the board in supplies, that's where the majority of the campus budget is. So for all of them, it's almost $1 million. Now again, same format for state programs. So we have the GT program, where the GT program is probably really easy to see. Of course, it's a function 11. It is a slight reduction to last year, but most of their program is in travel. So again, it's based on what they're actually gonna spend in travel for the program, and that's what they're forecasting. In CTE, they did request an increase to the budget. However, I did not see a change in their average daily attendance. And so Roger is reviewing that. But again, if numbers change, there were several departments and several programs that requested increases to their budgets. So we will make sure that we prioritize. I'll put that list together, but at this point, we're maintaining the 16-17 levels for the different programs, for campuses, for everybody. We're maintaining those levels. Now in special ed, the majority of their budget is in-house, which is what I was mentioning earlier, is their CNAs. They do have CNAs, and they pay them as temporary employees. So some of them have qualified already for the health insurance under PPACA. So again, that's where you can see where most of them do come in. Under comp ed, compensatory education, this is for our at-risk students. That majority of that budget, you can see is an in-house where we have our tutors, where we have the homebound program, the pregnancy-related program, summer school. And in that program, we also have, or in that funding source, we also have Play-Doh and Renaissance Learning, so everything for our at-risk students. In transportation, the majority of that budget falls under fuel and repairs, and they have been trending favorable in that area. And for bilingual, we include in here the summer school, the certification fees to reimburse the teachers to take those tests, any testing, and any reading materials. And for college readiness, we have our tuition, we have the TSI summer program, and tutors as well, and the dual credit textbooks. Are there any questions on state programs? And again, these are the programs that when we combine that with salaries, we have to maintain the level that the state is funding. And we've always been in compliance, so, yes, ma'am.
I don't know that, I don't think it goes under state programs, but I have to ask the question. The classroom book sets, where is that going to fall?
That falls under the instructional materials allotment, and that's not part of any of the budgets. The money is there, it comes from the state. And then we have a committee that,
Are we going to ensure that happens?
I've already visited with Dr. Garza about seeing where we have to bring in classroom sets.
That is Fund 410, so that's on a special revenue fund. Yes,
On transportation,
sir.
this is their budget that includes everything?
Not their salaries.
I mean, okay, no, the budget that they're requesting.
Yes, sir.
So does that include the charter buses?
No, because that's based on the program that's requesting it, like athletics or UIL, they have the charter bus budget.
They'll budget theirs separate, let's say, band
Yes,
and all special programs,
yes, yes.
whether it's the cheerleaders or soccer.
Yes, this transportation budget is just for transporting students to and from school. Any extracurricular related, any other program, they budget for that expense within their budgets. Yes.
And new buses don't fall under there either.
I'm sorry.
Well,
Purchase of buses.
everything that we discussed at the last workshop, Israel and John Sheedy are looking at the budget that they projected, because some of those items would fall under that already existing budget. And between this workshop and the next one, they'll go back and they'll say, okay, out of the $2 million that we requested, we balanced it out, so now we only need 1.2 million. Remember, it was all staggered in the first year, so they'll carry that, and then once they carry that, there are some things that were already budgeted for, so they'll work that out, and then they will come and ask for extra money. So whether it's going to be $500,000 or $1 million, that's we'll work that out between now and the next budget.
Now, student programs, again, we're maintaining most of them within their current year trends, so you do see very slight changes to those programs. Overall, it's a $21,000 change to those programs, and it is based on their current year trends. And just to mention the insurance, it's that insurance that we have for any student-related activity, so any UIL, whether it be sports or academics. If any student has, unfortunately, if any student has an accident, we can have that insurance coverage for the students. Under operations, we did include the new facilities in here, estimates for the new facilities. We did adjust for current year trends. And the only area that has an actual increase in fee, as you can see, is under the plant management, where our garbage fee did increase. And so that's what we have included in the budget, so that's why it's showing that $20,000 increase for the year. We also, I'm so sorry?
Who does that?
It falls under Israel's department, under operations.
Red River.
Oh, okay.
Red River Director. It's not the city.
No,
I'm sorry, I thought you said it was the trash. I'm thinking who does the purchase orders? I'm like, under Israel's department?
I didn't ask him.
Yes, he has a big truck.
One at a time.
last slide for general fund or budgets are the departments. Again, most of the departments, of course, include district-wide resources, like our Skyward system, our DMAC system, all of the contracts that we have with region. Of course, the audit is in here. Under finance, we have the audit. And then under the superintendent and board, of course, that's where we have the budget for our legal counsel. And one of the biggest changes, I'm sorry, I did have it circled, is, which is helping us with our 17-18 budget, is that lease that we started with the laptops about 4 years ago for the Dell laptops. That lease ended in 16-17, so you can see that big reduction in technology in 17-18. So that is a big help. So in recap, we have a revenue of $83,738,000 and expenditures of $84,289,000. We currently are showing a deficit of $500,000, but again, there still could be changes to our enrollment, to certified values. We'll continue to look through the June financials for any changes or favorability, and we're also evaluating on the operations workshop last week that we had, the maintenance plan and the technology plan, and as Dr. Rios mentioned, they are working on the master schedule to work on that as well. So again, this is where we're starting off, which is a really good point to be starting off at, so that through all of the changes that, or through all of the new information that would come in July, in August, we are going to present a balanced budget. Now, in general fund, are there any questions? Okay. And I should have done this in color. I'm sorry. This slide, I should have done in color. But this is a snapshot, and I'll print it so that you can see it better, of the 2016 spend per student. So it's a standard deviation that it takes compared to these districts. So as you can see it by functional category. The ones in orange are the ones where we exceed the other districts by more than one standard deviation, either plus or minus, and then the ones in blue are the ones where we fall within the one standard deviation compared to the other districts. So one of our first oranges is in library, so we spend more per student in library-related expenses than the other districts that we're compared to. That includes salaries, everything that's coded to function 12, which everything is salaries, your library books, everything in function 12 in your general fund. Now in curriculum, of course, we do exceed, and we have seen that change of where we're focused on staff development and all the curriculum in our district. And then another area that we would expect to see is the construction that we've had. We do exceed the other districts as well, because we've had that construction through general fund with the $25 million that we contributed. Yes, sir.
For example, on the curriculum, does that include the money that we spend from grants? So for example, no, it doesn't.
No, this is just general fund.
Okay.
Yeah, and I can bring in the other funds, but it's, it just would depend whether they have those same funding sources or not. So I do try to keep it to just general fund, but we can get that data as well. So again, I did want to show you where we fall in 2016 on our spend per student. Yes, ma'am.
I have a question, just because of some of the recommendations made about the library, which I think, what was it, 11? I'm sorry?
Yes.
Oh, the standard deviation of 1.8?
That was one of the orange ones.
What it falls under.
Oh, function 12.
Function 12.
Yes.
Do you know why we are significantly different?
We can go into the next level and it'll break it down by object code. So I'll provide that to you.
Could you print that for us?
Yes, once I saw it in gray, I'm like, oh, we lost all the data that I wanted to show you. But yes, we'll print it in color. And then I'll dig in by object code to provide that to you as well for functional code 12. Now, under debt service, again, this is the fund that we use for our interest and sinking or our other tax rates, just to pay our principal and interest. This is the outstanding debt that we have. This will still be updated based on the refinancing. So based on the refinancing, we should see an overall savings of $625,000. But this is based off as of right now. I just received, some documents today that I haven't reviewed about the refinancing, so once I review those, and if I have the data, it'll be part of our calculation for the next time. But based on our debt, based on our property values, last year I had mentioned that we would see an increase in the INS tax rate, but, again, since we set the tax rate as a district, we can decide to maintain the same tax rate, and that would just be a $12,000 dip into the fund balance for INS. So again, once I get the updated refinance debt schedule and we get certified values, we recommend the tax rate so we can maintain it at the same level as we had the prior years that we didn't see, so that we won't see an increase.
Do we have a fund balance in here?
It's the next slide.
Okay.
So the fund balance for debt service is 1.6 million. Now you can see where the fund balance has grown over the years, but if you recall, we've had refinancing almost every year in the last 3 years. So the refinancing that we do is not part of when we project our tax rate. Most of the refinancing happens in February. And so that year, we collected based on the debt schedule that we had in the summer. So this summer, we should have a new debt schedule, so our tax rate should be set based on that refinancing. But the prior years, we've refinanced with a February date. So again, we have seen savings based on our refinancing. And of course, that's where the fund balance grows. On food, oh, I'm sorry, yes, sir.
Question. On the fund balance, when do you carry over the funds that were left over from this year?
When do we carry over the fund balance?
Yeah, any monies that were left at the end of the year?
Any funds that have fund balance, our fiscal year ends August 31st.
So that's when we would be brought up today. Any money that has not been spent.
So we do the audit.
Yeah, and we finalize it with the audit, yes.
That's up to January, usually January.
So we wouldn't present that till January, but it would be based off of August 31st. But after August 31st, we have a lot of journal entries that we post. So for INS, there's really not much of a change, but on general fund, there is a lot of journal entries that we post at the end.
Right, and I didn't mean debt service, but general.
Oh, okay, no, on general fund, we have a lot of journal entries that we post in September. And so I started providing preliminaries, but we're really close. I think my last year's numbers were off by just like 100,000 or 150. When I present August forecast on August 31st to what we audited, it was just a difference of 150,000. So on August 31st, I give you a preliminary fund balance. Yes, but the final one isn't until August. Our last program that the board have to approve is food service. We've already seen that budget. Again, it's based on the community eligibility provision. So again, it's a projected deficit of $29,713. But we already went through all of that where I discussed through transitioning of the staff. Once they transition to different positions, we would see that deficit go away. And then for budget, oh, I didn't change the date. It's July 19. I should have put July 19 is the health insurance workshop. So again, we already have that scheduled. We're already receiving preliminary reports from our health insurance consultant. So we will have a insurance committee meeting, I believe, on the 13th, which is Thursday. So we will meet with the committee before we meet with the board on the 19th.
What time is that?
The committee meeting, I believe, is at 2 o'clock, but I will get back with you on that. Oh, I think Dr. Rios is gonna send it as a board update. And he has it on his calendar. Now, the proposed workshop is currently planned for August 14th. And we need 10 days before we can have our actual public hearing. So August 14th is a Monday and August 28th is a Monday. These dates can change, but there always has to be 10 days in between. And this workshop has to be before the 20th, so that this workshop can happen before the 31st. So our final meeting, and this is the meeting where I would present you the preliminary fund balance for general fund and for INS and for food service. That's where we make all of our adjustments to all of our funds, would be on August 31st.
there any way we can go on vacation this summer?
No. That's a silly question.
And then there's a lot of really fun information included in the rest of the slides, but I won't go through that.
Yeah,
Yes,
I
sir.
will not be here for the 19th, but I'll meet with you before I leave.
Okay. Okay.
I'll be
And
here for 19th, 20th.
Just to juggle the day between Tasby and here, it's impossible.
but the health insurance workshop is scheduled for the 9th. Any other questions?
We'll just reach out to make sure the 19th is gonna work, and I will adjust it to which day.
And Estella had called everybody,
Yeah.
but if,
On
I'll
the
ask
19th
her to
and
call.
20th, I got doctor
Yeah,
appointment.
but I'll ask her to call everybody again.
The 19th is fine for me, the 29th is a conflict.
The
So
20,
19th
oh, yes, and I'm sorry, I thought I had changed it, but no, it's the 19th, so I'm sorry, then it said the 29th on here. Well, that wraps up the budget workshop. Thank you so much for your questions and your patience. Oh, thank you.
Yes, good job as always.
And there's some really cute pictures in there.
Yeah. That has to be on the website before the July.
Isn't
That is so
It was last year's 4th of July picture. Yes, that's why I grabbed it. I'm like, this is cute.
And thank you for saving on toner.
Yes, ma'am.
I noticed that.
That'll take us out of the workshop, so is there a motion to adjourn the workshop so we can go to the regular? Thank you, Ms. Haynes, and seconded by Ms. Lozano. All in favor? Unanimous carries, thank you. That takes us into the open meeting. There is nothing scheduled under 6, 7, 8, 19, 11, 12, which takes us into 13. Business, finance, A, consideration to approve for the board president to appoint a 3-member finance committee. Ms. Valdez?
Good evening again, Mr. Overfelt. I reached out to the current finance committee members, and they would all like to continue. So that would be my recommendation for tonight, would be for the current committee members to continue on the finance committee this coming year.
Awesome. For the recommendation, is there a motion to accept?
Oh, I'm so sorry, thank you. It's Ms. Gonzalez, Mr. Chavita, and Mr. Smith.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
For what you do, I did it for 30-something years too, so I remember. So I have a motion by Ms. Haynes. Is there a second? Ms. Lozano, any other discussion? All in favor? Unanimous carries. Thank you. Congratulations, guys. 13B, discussion of 2018 Valverde County Appraisal District Budget. Ms. Sherry Sheedy.
Ms. Sheedy is here. We did provide the appraisal district budget. On the first page, it does highlight the changes where they're recommending an increase of 5.4%. And in this increase, if Ms. Sheedy, you'd like to go through the 3 items that are included in the appraisal district budget.
Mr. Overfelt, school board members, Dr. Reyes, good evening. Health insurance continues to be a rising cost for us. It ended up being a 15% increase. We are a small pool. That's usually what's happening. What I'm working on right now, I've got 9 other appraisal districts, and we're trying to pool together and see if we can get some lower rates. They're looking at that. They haven't got back with us on it yet, so it's something that we're still working on that we'd end up saving this year on health insurance premiums. I'm also looking at seeing if we can join through the Texas Rural Chief Appraisers Association. That's 117 appraisal districts. If we can get that done, that would be something we could do possibly for our 2019 budget. But it's what it is. It's $812, I believe, a person's what I pay now. The other thing we're looking at is our computer system. It's approximately 10 years old. I'm crossing my fingers every day. Just let me get through certification. We're having a lot of issues with our system. It's going to be $10,833 per year on a 4-year lease, and a one-time fee of $8,125 to have it installed. We did adjust, or the board adjusted the pay scale that they adopted last year. They did a market study, and first they adjusted all the employees' salaries based on that market study. Then they decided to adjust administration. So we're in the second year of the 2-year adjustment to the management pay scale. The salary adjustment for 2018 is $15,331.09. Next year, in 2019, we would just be looking at step increases for most staff, except we have one person who is working towards her registered professional appraiser designation. So when she advances from a level 2 to a level 3, she will do a step plus for the advancement. Were there any questions?
Any questions from anyone on the board regarding the budget?
And the board has between, and when it was approved on June 16th through July 17th. So we brought it to this workshop, but again, if the board chooses, it can be brought to the July meeting if we need more time.
Because I know it was something that we just got recently, so whatever the board's wishes, if y'all wish to go ahead and approve it now, or do you want to wait a couple more weeks and take action on it on the 17th of July?
Mr. Chairman, I sure would like to, I've got some questions, but I would like to wait a little bit. To table it and come back,
Okay.
if you don't mind. But I just, it's a recommendation.
Anyone else have thoughts, opinions on it? It's not a negative thing if we don't do it today. It's just,
Yeah, I guess I would second it if Mr. Severe is not comfortable, I'd second.
Mr. Messa, do you have a, because I know you sit on the board.
I know we got the budget in our packet,
Mhm.
it includes everything.
Mhm.
I would like to take a vote, but that's,
So I make a motion, we make a vote.
Okay.
Do I have a second?
There's a motion on the table to approve the budget, is what you're asking for, ma'am?
Yes.
As presented this evening, seconded by Mr. Messa. Any other discussion on that? All in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 opposed?
I'm against.
Okay. 6 in favor, 1 opposed, passes. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
13C, consideration to approve the modification to the 2016-17 general fund balance commitments for landscaping, asphalt, and purchase order over $25,000 to the Little Acre Nursery in the amount of $37,418.50 for landscaping at the Early College High School. Mr. Cadetta and Ms. Valdez.
Okay, we have here the landscaping is for the Early College High School, which includes a retaining wall with Little Acre Nursery for $37,418. And there would also be asphalt, an asphalt project at that campus. That one is below the $25,000, it's at $24,452. The project itself, the Early College High School project, does not have a budget available, and so we're requesting a fund balance commitment from the favorability from the CTE project. And you'll see this fund balance adjustment as well on the next item for Laughlin. So the CTE project had about $250,000 favorable, and for Laughlin, I believe we're going to request 138, and for Early College High School, it's about 60-something thousand. So again, this would be in order to have the landscaping and asphalt project at Early College High School.
and I mean, the retaining wall would be there at the Early College.
Yes, sir. What they did is, they built a ramp for wheelchairs from the entrance all the way to the corner where you cross over to the junior college. Last week you mentioned how the ground's really elevated and how where cars come up. Well, it's the same thing with the ramp. It's elevated, so they have to cut into the ground, and there is a lot of soil that's exposed. It's just as high as 2.5 feet in some areas. So they have to build a retaining wall so it doesn't erode into the sidewalk.
So
So that's bringing it up to ADA requirements.
Well, the ramp brought it up to ADA requirements. The retaining wall is just to keep
Right.
the
Yeah.
dirt from falling over that ADA required ramp.
Okay.
And later on, maybe they will.
Yes.
I mentioned that as well.
You have to bring it.
Diana needs to.
So when that was done before, that didn't have a sprinkler system in it before?
It did have a sprinkler system, but since then, they have built 3 sidewalks that were wider than the ones that were there. They built the retaining wall, which the ADA ramp that cut through the entire front lawn. And they cut into a lot of it. It's that sprinkler system. Obviously, the connection to the water source is still there, but that sprinkler system is not salvageable. And you can see where on the trucks and construction,
Yeah, look, to me it looked like there was, to me, that's what, why the parking lot's in such poor shape is it was kind of construction. To me, it wasn't, I don't think it was like that when we were still using the building. Doesn't mean the parking lot doesn't get fixed, but, the contractor's not accepting any liability for the destruction of the parking lot.
those are just for the sidewalk where they broke some of it. They'll fix that, but not the parking lot.
Okay. And then the other thing is I don't remember, 65 pallets, is that what I was remembering on the. And there's 2 things tied to that. The one is 65, is the 65, the grass that was there, 65 pallets will cover a lot of square area. And I can see that they destroyed a lot of the grass around the building, but how far is 65 pallets going to cover the whole lot, or?
The front and the side, and then the back, between the parking lot and the building will be zero-scape. At the side where the parking lot is, that's gonna get redone, that would be zero-scape also.
So there wasn't any sod that was there that was salvaged?
No. Now, I'll make sure that Israel has a very close eye on it, because it is our budget, it's not the contractor's budget, so I'll make sure that Israel manages that well.
And on both of those, did we get multiple bids on both of those projects?
We got multiple bids on the asphalt, on the other one, we got one. And that's because it's, ma'am, how does that work? I know that we asked for bids, at the beginning when we do the bids, and we had one bid for asphalt, but that gentleman passed away. So then we didn't have a contractor, Corporal passed away months ago. So we didn't have a contractor for the asphalt small project. So then we went and we got 3 bids and we dealt with it as if we didn't have a contractor already for the district for asphalt. But on the landscape, Little Laker is the one that bid and the only one that bid. So most of our projects go to them. Is that accurate now?
That's correct, yes.
And the other 2 bids for the asphalt, what did they look like?
Do you have those down?
Let me see if I have them. I
But
don't recall if I
bids are
received
sent
them,
out
but they
to-
were higher amounts.
Individual,
Yes.
5 or 6 different people, right?
Well, in this case, we tried to get 3 bids. And we did get one bid that was less, but it was a cold mix. And we haven't had good experiences with that. So we did get a 4th one, but we got 3 bids that were that hot mix, and this was a cheaper one, or the less expensive one.
Yes. This is the cold mix, and let me move this document over to the screen and see if I can get it. And all of the quotes for the cold mix. And I don't have the other ones.
That's fine. Oh, no. My only deal on the asphalt is that, you know, it looks like it was damaged, you know, whatever, I guess there's a lot of equipment out there. But,
JP got us a fourth bid, but he got us a bid on cold mix, so that wasn't like the other, so we didn't even consider it. But that's a bid that we did not consider, that's a cold mix.
Oh, okay.
That's the cold mix bid that JP Construction got for us from JR Construction, but we didn't even consider it.
But he wants to see the other ones.
Okay, I think this is the email. It says here, Early College High School paving estimate. Let me see who that one's from. 90 West.
They're the ones that got
That's
it.
the one I got.
Okay, so there's that one. And then, let me look at the other ones. This is from Mendoza.
And we also got it from Reese Albert.
Mendoza at $39,631. And here's another one
Yeah, we
from
got
Reese
it.
Albert.
From Reese Albert.
Yes. Okay. And should we move that one down? 55,000.
and that's for the same square area?
Same thing.
They're probably asphalt.
Well, but that's I don't know what the difference is, but maybe it's the same thing. Fine grade versus work grade. Which I don't know if that makes a difference. Does it last
Well, I
longer?
think it
Does
said something in here about,
It says to work subgrade, and so that's fine grade subgrade. I don't know if that's
I
different,
think it's
better,
talk, I think
different.
it's talking about prime base. Is what that's
They were all given the same specs, and they were all given a drawing of the area, and they were all asked to go view it. And the only one that I know of that actually went and looked was 90 West. But they were all given a schematic drawing of the area, and they were given the same specs.
No, it can't be because that was a whole lot more expensive, but, ma'am, do you know off the top of your head the specific grade that we asked for in the specifications?
I'm sorry,
The grade of the asphalt that we asked for in the
I
specifications?
don't, off the top of my head, I don't.
Well, I think what this is not talking about is grade, but this is the grade below the asphalt. B is not talking about the asphalt. B is talking about what's up here.
I don't know.
I think this is a fair proposal, but I'm not arguing. My only argument is that, what did they take care of this stuff?
Any other questions? Recommendation?
It is a recommendation of the administration for the Board of Trustees to approve the modification to the general fund commitments and the purchase order over $25,000 to Little Acre Nursery in the amount of $37,418.50.
For the recommendation, I so move. Is there a second? Mr. Trevita, second. Any other discussion? All in favor? Unanimous, carries. Thank you. D, consideration to approve modification to the 16-17 general fund balance commitments for the Laughlin Magnet School and purchase order over $25,000 for Palomar Modular Buildings in the amount of $543,444 for 8 pre-manufactured classrooms. Mr. Cadetta installed this.
Okay, this is for the Laughlin project. We have included in here a summary of the total project as well. The modulars did come in about $16,000 more than the quote that we received. I believe it was back in March or April. You said it best, there was changes in regulations, and so the buildings weren't built before the regulations were in place. So now with the new regulations, this is the estimate that we received. We received it on Monday after we sent out the original one. So this is in a revised or a revised recommendation to the original one that was sent out on Monday. It's a $16,000 difference.
There's different code compliances that have to go in unless the buildings have begun to be constructed prior to the code compliance going in. And at this point, they don't believe they can get them in there, so they gave us the higher code, which is about $2,000 more per building to install whatever code compliance items are required, so that's why we're paying that.
And with that, for the Laughlin School, the total modification to fund balance, which is inclusive of all of the other items for Laughlin, would be $164,579. And then we have the rest of the agenda items fall into that budget that would, if it's approved tonight, would fall into that budget. Are there any other questions?
Recommendation.
It is the recommendation of the administration that the Board of Trustees approve the modification of the 16-17 general fund balance commitments and purchase order over $25,000 to Palomar Modular Buildings in the amount of $543,444.
For the recommendation, is there a motion to accept? Mr. Chavita, second by Ms. Lozano. Any other discussion? All in favor? Unanimous carries, thank you.
Thank you.
E, consideration to approve purchase order over $25,000 with Weaver Technologies in the amount not to exceed $36,531.30 for computers, printers, and wireless access points. Less.
President, I thought I was before. This purchase here will be, again, for computers, printers, and wireless access points at the Hagan School. These are items that we already have on bid that will be purchased all year long.
Any questions from anyone on the board about these items that'll go out to Laughlin?
And there's no bidding because you already have an open bid or whatever.
We have an open bid that we run all year long with the make and model of equipment that's going to be going out there. So it did go through the bid process, but it was at the beginning of this
Just have
previous
it.
school year. This is the last of it for this year.
Any other questions? Any recommendations here?
So the recommendation of the administration of the Board of Trustees approve the payment of the purchase order over $25,000 for technologies in the amount of $36,531.30.
For the recommendation, is there a motion to accept? Mr. Chavita, first, seconded by myself. Any other discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Unanimous? Okay. F, consideration to approve purchase order of $25,000 with SQL Data Systems in the amount not to exceed $51,703.30 for security cameras and networking equipment. Wes?
Again, this is for security cameras, networking gear. This includes switches, all the connectors and everything that we're going to need to be able to connect all the buildings together. And this also is an item that we've had out for bid this year through SQL. They did include E-rate pricing, which is better than what our normal pricing is. So all the cabling for all this equipment will still be done with our internal technology department to lower costs.
When we talk security cameras, are those gonna be linked into the district police office over there so they can monitor like the other campuses?
Yes, currently we have a little over 200 cameras throughout the district. This will increase that number. We've already taken into account the storage on it. The only thing that will be different with the Magnet School is our 911 system will route directly to their fire department on the base to improve response times. Outside of that, it'll be configured the same way every other school is.
Okay. Any other questions? Recommendation?
This is a recommendation recommendation of the administration of the Board of Trustees for the payment of the purchase order over $25,000 to Equal Data Systems in the amount of $51,703.30.
For the recommendation, I so move. Is there a second? Ms. Lozano? All in favor? Unanimous, carries, thank you. G, consideration?
You can hardly hear you.
Consideration to approve the contract over $5,000 with Skyward in the amount of $18,594 for the addition of Laughlin Magnet to the student management system. Mrs. Smith.
Okay, good evening, Mr. President, Dr. Rios, members of the board. The Skyward system is the database system used to process the school district student food program finance and human resource data. So what we have for your presentation is for the addition of the Laughlin Magnet for the student information system.
Any questions by the board? Recommendation?
It is a recommendation.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, I just have a quick question. So every time we add a school, we have to pay extra?
Yes.
So like Maryland College High School, everything?
Whatever we add an
CT.
independent number, not for CT because that's still in the high school.
So like blended doesn't also?
Blended is an independent school, or college high school independent school, and this one independent school. They're not linked with any other school.
Thank you.
It is a recommendation of administration that the board of trustees approves for the superintendent to sign a contract with Skyward in the amount of $18,594.
For the recommendation, is there a motion to accept? Ms. Lozano, seconded by Mr. Chavita, all in favor? Unanimous, carries, thank you. 14, Human Resources and Student Services, A, consideration to approve employee job description evaluation forms and title changes. Dr. McNamara.
Good evening, President Overfeld, members of the board, and Dr. Rios. Ms. Betty Falcone sent you the packet, which is pretty lengthy. It entails 20 job description revisions. The Dean of Instruction will talk about the next agenda item, President Overfeld. So in your packet, we have 20. These are being reviewed by cabinet members, and their direct reports, we also corrected those as well. So we have the administrative director, the director of technology integration and communication services, chief financial officer, the chief or the financial coordinator. That is a title change from HR finance coordinator to just finance coordinator. Chief Operations Officer, the Director of Technology that reports to the Chief Operations Officer. Chief Instructional Officer, that is a title change with the deletion of elementary and secondary. The direct reports to that individual would be the Director of CNI, the Director of Special Ed, and the Director of K. The next one is the Chief Compliance and Accountability Officer. That's also a title change to delete state and federal programs. The direct report there is Director of Assessment Accountability. Chief HR Officer, the deletion was and instructional support, it's title change. Coordinator of Employee Benefits and Support Services reports directly to that individual. And the Chief Student Services Officer, title change. And the direct report would be the Director of Student Services and the Director of Athletics. We also included from Mr. Pereira's area, the Director of, or Coordinator of Maintenance and the Assistant Coordinator of Maintenance and Custodial, as well as the Route Coordinator for your review this evening.
Questions from the board? I know it was a whole lot of
The
info.
changes were all marked out in red for you. There was also a complete copy and the evaluation as well.
It has to be approved today. That's a
My,
lot of information.
my goal was all of these reflect the organizational chart that I shared with y'all in the two previous board updates. None of them is a creation of position. None of them includes added pay or anything like that. This is just begin the new school year with the organization that I described for y'all in the organizational chart.
Do any of them change pay, whether it's less? I know you said no increase, but
Nobody,
nobody decreases.
not a single person in this gets more pay or less pay, more days or less days. It's just the job descriptions that we've organized over the past month and working with the cabinet. And obviously, people report to different chiefs now. But that's it. There is no pay. And it was a community project that I did with the cabinet. I think it balances everybody's workload and it's fair. And again, we would like to begin next week or really the week after that with the new organization as we begin the new year, at least in federal programs.
No benefits, big,
No, sir. Or pay increase.
no lease.
Yes, sir.
Go ahead,
The CIO, I mean, it used to be secondary, right? So now it's just one?
Yes, ma'am.
Is that, I understood that?
Yes, ma'am. The chief instructional officer will be one person covering both programs. And that's why we're adding the director of curriculum, which we'll talk about in closed session. But we had talked about that before, but in the recommendation.
And there are, what surprises them?
No,
No.
it's everything how I described it in the organization.
We'll find out later.
Understood.
And you talked about federal programs, about wanting to have it ready to go for federal programs. Is federal roll in, all their stuff start July 1 or?
Yes,
Yes, I
Yes.
just wanted to make sure I wasn't talking. Yes, sir.
yes, most of the grants have a July 1 start date. The only one is CTE has an August 1st start date, but most of the grants have a July 1 start date.
And how many of those are federal?
The, obviously, federal programs will be under student services now. And as far as which was get federal money, I couldn't talk, I don't know off the top of my head. No, that's not, it's not a must, but for our own organization, it's just beginning a new year, which is for us is when we come back. For administrators, it's when we come back in July. That begins our new contract year and who we report to. That's probably more important than the federal programs that they report to.
Under the Chief Human Resources Officer, I know that the previous job description was the Chief of Human Resources and Instructional Support Officer. So, I would anticipate that it would change, but it's all changed. So, I don't understand why it's completely revamped. I would think that the HR piece would still need to be done.
The one that's there was already, is that the one for the student services?
No, that's for HR. It was a rewording of a lot of different things. Ms. Garcia reviewed my old one, and changed it up, and kind of combined some things together.
It was all listed like in a list, all the
Yeah, and she just
responsibilities,
did
so
like-
we just
Grouped it
grouped
together,
everything
is what she did.
together.
And took out the pieces of the instructional support part.
You went out, it wasn't always like that, it was always before this was
Right.
human resources, and then, what, 2 years ago, they added your, the other part, when it started, I can remember here. And we're back to.
I don't know if y'all do anything that you feel uncomfortable with, but it does not include more pay, it doesn't include, it still includes all the responsibilities that have to be done, it just puts them under a different officer. If y'all, as a board, feel more comfortable waiting, then that's fine. It doesn't change our budget, it doesn't change too much of what we do, but we do just need to move forward and transition over the summer, and that's why we were bringing it today.
The people already know, right?
Yes, ma'am.
They know, they know.
I'll echo, the sentiments here that, we got them a little bit later than the packet. And I think for me, I was, looking through it and thinking like, okay, what changed, like, who's gonna be their supervisor now? And that was, it was difficult to find out, like, because there's so many of them. And there was little time to see, like, okay, who's gonna be their supervisor now? And so questions like that, because it was a whole lot.
Yeah, I think that Mr. Rios did define that earlier on, but I agree that looking at it this way, it's hard to tie something that we looked at 2 or 3 weeks ago to that list.
I can open up the org chart.
Yeah.
You sent us an organizational chart, that's what I would call the organizational chart.
We don't have anything between now and July 17
No.
that we meet for?
No.
I think it's a lot, I just think it's a lot to expect that delivered yesterday to today, that we could actually intelligently and, say, okay, great. I just think it's a lot to ask. For me, especially the one that's all red, can we at least pull that one out? Literally, it's all red.
It's all red.
It's all new. Whether it says the same thing or not, I haven't had the time to review it, so.
I'm sorry.
Okay, this is a just color-coded version that shows the changes. Let me try to get it on one screen. And
I don't think it's gonna make too much of a difference, let's just, I'm okay, really. I need to move forward and continue with the reorganization, but in terms of y'all feeling comfortable and approving it, we can wait till the next meeting. Nothing's gonna happen, we're off for 1 week, we come back, and then 2 Mondays later, we're meeting again, so, it doesn't, I'm okay with it, it's not we just need to formally have those job descriptions, so that when I go back to fill them, they're job descriptions that we've approved, should there be a vacancy. But since it doesn't affect any personnel being changed, we can wait. Let's just do that. I want everybody to feel comfortable, and that's more important to me. So, as board president, I'm happy to table it.
Administration requests tabling this item until the next regular scheduled board meeting in July. Is there a motion? First by Ms. Lozano, seconded by Mr. Mesa. All in favor? Unanimous? Thank you. Huh?
I hadn't voted yet.
I'm sorry, I thought I saw your arm go up. How do you vote, Ms. Gonzalez?
Well, I was already ready to vote, so I said no.
No, 6 in favor, 1 against.
Yeah, I had already seen the resolution, so
B, consideration to approve the Dean of Instruction for Del Rio Middle School and the job description and evaluation. Do you want to go ahead and,
No, I don't want to table this one. I want to talk about this one.
okay, go ahead.
That's the next item.
B, consideration to approve the Dean of Instruction for Del Rio Middle School job description and evaluation form, Dr. McNamara and Dr. Rios.
Okay, I'll give you the history behind it. In the past, Del Rio Middle School, not always, but in the past, it had 4 assistant principals. And in the last year or maybe 2, we've been operating with 3 assistant principals. We want to make sure that the new team that comes there has all the support possible. So we want to add a 4th assistant principal, but obviously we don't want to tag the local budget with that expense. We have federal funds that we keep carrying over, and there is a specific job that an assistant principal will do, which is the Dean of Instruction. So by having the Dean of Instruction and creating that position, we're allowed to pay for that extra administrator at the same pay as any assistant principal, not making any more, not making any less, same days, everything, but tie it to instruction and have that position paid with federal funds. The reason that I want to move forward with it is because we want to be able to fill that position before too long. When the money comes in from the federal, when they approve the grant that we submitted just an hour, we included that position on there. So we'd like to be able to add that fourth administrator to Del Rio Middle School as early as possible in the summer. That's what it is. I don't know if I explained it well enough, but.
But it says pending grant approval.
Yes,
If it's not,
If it's not approved, then we don't have the money for it. If it's
Yeah,
federal
okay.
programs, then it just doesn't happen. But if the grant usually takes about, what, 10 days from the time we approve it? So if we come back from the holidays and it's approved Tuesday or Wednesday, then I'd like to move forward with what we have to do. More than likely, I would ask the principal at Del Rio Middle School to name somebody, I discuss it with them, name somebody that's already on staff, and have them be the dean of instruction. Like I said, it doesn't pay any more money, it doesn't pay any less. It's a title and a job description. And then that way we can then very quickly post that fourth, or that fourth person, which at that point will be an assistant principal.
If I may add, this title has been on our grant before, so it has been approved before. We have one at Del Rio High School.
It's just important that I add that fourth administrator, Del Rio Middle School, as early as possible.
How's it worded? Is it worded tied to that? Tied to the approval of
Yes,
that?
sir.
Yes, it would be. Thank you.
It is tied to the approval of the federal grant, correct?
The verbiage in here is,
Yes, Dr. Garza said it was, yes,
And I could definitely make the recommendation where it's clearly indicated that it's pending approval of the ESSA grant.
So this year the point that we done, is that what you said?
More than likely, ma'am, I
We're
would,
gonna ask someone else to-
yes, I would take one of the assistant principals already at Del Rio Middle School and post for an AP. And the reason I'm just saying that is that as I look at the pool of APs that are out there, available right now, we've had extensive conversations about encouraging individuals to go out and get their certification and continue to support them because we are running less and less on APs. And I know for a fact that the APs that we have on staff, or that we will have on staff at the end of tonight, would be more apt to fill in this job description than somebody that we would hire straight out of the classroom to do that dean of instruction role. So it would be easier for the administration to take one of the APs, give them the title of dean of instruction, and post for a regular assistant principal. Doesn't change pay, doesn't change anything. It just allows us to add one more administrator at Del Rio Middle School, and that's important.
So if that grant is awarded, is it limited?
No, it's an entitlement, it's a title, it's really the Title I grant, it's called the ESSA grant, it's a new name.
It doesn't go away?
No, as a matter of fact, the budget that we have is the same budget that we had for last year, no more money, no less money. Yeah, the planning amount's the same.
Any other questions? Recommendation?
Yes, sir. It is a recommendation of administration that the dean of instruction position, the job description evaluation forms be presented, or be approved this evening as presented. Oh, I'm sorry, pending grant approval.
Okay, we have to move along. Our motion to accept, Mr. Lozano, second by Mr. Shavita. Any other discussion? All in favor? Unanimous?
This time.
Unanimous, thank you. Nothing under technology, that takes us to 16 closed session. Under the Texas Government Code and Texas Open Meetings Act, we can go into closed session. Tonight specifically pursuant to 551.074, discussion of personnel, or to hear complaints against personnel, and 551.071, private consultation with the board's attorney. Discussion of personnel report, new hires, district vacancies, retirements, resignations, reassignments. 2, discussion of salary adjustments to include but not limited the following justifications of service credit, master's degree, stipends, salary, matrix adjustments. 3, discussion of principal positions. 4, discussion of assistant principal positions. 5, discussion of director of curriculum and instruction. All final votes are taken in open session. It's now 7:48 PM. We are in closed session. All right, it's now 8:26 PM, Thursday, June 29th, 2017. This board will reconvene into open session. No action was taken. A, consideration to approve the personnel report to include the following: new hires, district vacancies, retirements, and resignations. Dr. McNamara.
Yes, sir. President Overshaw, members of the board, Dr. Rios, the administration recommends the following applicants for hire in our district: Ms. Brenda Maltos, third grade teacher at North Heights Elementary, and Ms. Cindy Cardenas, educational diagnostician for the special ed department.
With the recommendation, is there a motion to accept? First by Ms. Lozano, second by Ms. Haynes. Any discussion? All in favor? Unanimous carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
B, consideration to approve salary adjustment to include the following justification, service credit, master's degree, and stipends. Dr. McNamara.
President Overshaw, members of the board, Dr. Rios, is the recommendation of administration that the salary adjustments be approved as presented in closed executive session this evening.
For the recommendation, I so move. Is there a second? Mr. Mesa. Any discussion? All in favor? Unanimous carries. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
C, consideration to approve principal positions. Dr. Rios.
Yes, sir. Do I need to take one at a time or?
Would we like them individually? Or all as a group?
All
As a group, please.
President Overflow, members of the board, the administration recommends Mr. Sergio Jimenez as principal of Del Rio Middle School, Cheryl Pond, principal at Dr. Lonnie Green, Ms. Janela Rubio, principal at Garfield Elementary.
For the recommendation, is there a motion to accept? First by Mr. Chavitas, second by Ms. Lozano. All in favor? Unanimous carries. Thank you. Consideration to approve the assistant principal positions. Dr. Rios.
President Overflow, members of the board, the administration recommends Ms. Laura Langton as assistant principal at Del Rio Middle School, Mr. Arnoldo Romero as assistant principal at Buena Vista Elementary, Mr. Albert Calderon as assistant principal at Del Rio Middle School, and Dr. Alana Talamantes Elizondo as assistant principal at Del Rio High School.
For the recommendation, is there a motion to accept? First by Mr. Chavita, seconded by myself. Any other discussion? All in favor? Unanimous carries. E, consideration to approve the Director of Curriculum and Instruction, Dr. Rios.
So the administration recommends Ms. Cynthia Salas as Director of Curriculum and Instruction.
For the recommendation, is there a motion to accept? Mr. Smith, seconded by Mr. Mesa. Any discussion? All in favor? Unanimous carries. Thank you. Nothing under superintendent's report. Being no further business before this board, is there a motion to adjourn? Miss a lot. And I'm going to go with Ms. Haynes, seconded by Mr. Mesa. All in favor? Unanimous carries. Adjourned at 8:30. Thank you.